One of the biggest assets to job site productivity is the efficient movement of material. The mobility of forklifts, their lifting capacities and vertical reach, means you, the operator, need to be knowledgeable on the safe operation of rough terrain straight mast forklifts. Throughout this video, we will be using these symbols that emphasize danger. An extremely hazardous situation exists on or near the machine for which there is a high probability of death or serious injury if the proper precautions are not taken. Warning: a hazard exists on or near the machine which can result in serious injury or death if proper precautions are not taken. Caution: a reminder of safety practices or to direct your attention to unsafe practices on or near the machine which could result in personal injury if the proper precautions are not taken. Watch for these symbols. You will also see them in one of the most important documents necessary for the safe operation of the forklift, the operator's manual. It should always stay with the machine. It is very important for your safety and the safety of your co-workers that you read it before operating the forklift. Inspect your equipment daily, including verification that the load capacity plate, as well as all instruction and safety labels, are in place and readable. Be sure no safety switches or devices have been bypassed. Check for warning tags that may have been placed on the unit by a previous operator. The condition of the tires is critical, so look for cracks or cuts and refer to the manufacturer's manual for proper inflation. If the tires require ballast material, be sure they are filled to the proper level in all 4 tires. An overall inspection for cracked welds, metal fatigue, and fluid leaks assures you that safe operation is in your hands. Never use forks that have been modified, and do not exceed the combined capacity stamped on each fork. Never fill the fuel tank until the engine has cooled, or while near an open flame, or when smoking. Know where fire extinguishers are kept on the work site. Proper fluid levels, including engine oil, coolant, hydraulic and transmission fluid, should also be checked prior to operation. A walk-around of the work site allows you to see the conditions you will encounter moving material. Check for overhead wires and their height compared to the maximum lift height of the machine. Contact with electrically charged wires is extremely dangerous and will likely result in serious injury or death. Excavations, grade changes, underground culverts, loose backfill, and fuel supplies stored on site need to be identified and avoided or dealt with properly. Remember, safety is the responsibility of the operator. Taking charge of your safety means starting the workday with the right attitude, good physical condition, proper safety gear, and a machine properly prepared for the job. Don't take chances. Your well-being, as well as other workers around you, is at stake. Handholds or steps are provided for safe entry. Always maintain a 3-point contact when climbing on or off the machine. Buckling up is not an option when operating a rough terrain forklift. It is a requirement. Adjust the seat and seat belt for comfort before starting the engine. Establish a safe routine that you follow each time the machine is started. This routine will include ensuring that the transmission lever and all other control levers are in neutral, the parking brake is fully applied, and that no one is standing between the wheel and the frame, in front or behind the machine. The forks should be resting on the ground. Check visibility completely around the forklift. At all times, keep hands away from the mast. The moving parts on this part of the forklift can cause serious injury during lifting and lowering. When low batteries cannot start the engine, consult your operator's manual for recommended practices that may include jump starting from another power source. Be aware that batteries represent an explosive source, and check the battery manufacturer's recommended practices for jump starting. In no case is the machine to be push or pull started. Hydraulic functions, including steering, brakes, and mast controls, are dependent on the engine for power. A quick run-through of the machine's functions with the forklift at rest will ensure proper operation. Never check for hydraulic leaks when the engine is running. Pressurized hydraulic fluid can penetrate the skin, causing serious injury or death, so use cardboard when checking for leaks. Now is the time to check the machine's steering functions. Refer to the lift capacity positioned within view of the operator. This explains the vehicle's capacity at different heights. The ability of a straight-mast forklift to raise a load without tipping is based on a principle of two weights balanced on either side of a pivot point. Factors affecting this balance are the weight of the machine, the weight of the load to be lifted, and the center of gravity. The center of gravity is the single point about which the machine is balanced in all directions. The stability of the forklift is determined by the location of its center of gravity, and if the vehicle is loaded, by the combined center of gravity. Because a straight-mast forklift has moving parts, the center of gravity moves as the forks move up and down, and even when the mast is tilted forward and backward. Surface conditions and tire pressure can also affect the center of gravity. Dynamic forces such as acceleration, braking, turning, and operating on inclines can affect the center of gravity dramatically and quickly. Always drive with the forks and load as low as possible. Remember when traveling on the worksite that an unloaded forklift will tip over to the side easier than a loaded forklift with its load in the lowered position. Lifting capacities are calculated utilizing a 24-inch load center. When lifting loads, insert the forks all the way. Inspect the material for stability and secure the load prior to lifting. Place the heavier items on mixed loads near the fork backrest. In congested areas, increase your scanning and stay to the right on construction roads or follow established traffic patterns. Scan your path of travel for people, hazards, and other vehicles. Keep helpers and other workers away from the load when lifting, and never allow riders. Transport the load as low as possible and utilize the mast back tilt function to prevent the load from sliding. Start slowly and test the brakes and steering. Operate the vehicle smoothly with no jerky movements which could cause the load to shift. Avoid sloping ground if possible, and do not drive on excessively steep slopes. When ascending or descending slopes, keep the load pointing up the slope and approach the hill straight on. When unloaded, travel only with the forks or attachment downhill. When descending, use low gear or low range to prevent engine compression to assist the brakes in controlling vehicle speed. If you must drive on a slope, keep the load low and proceed carefully. Avoid turning on an incline, and if you must, keep the turn wide and slow. If you feel the vehicle tipping, stay in your seat with the seat belt fastened. Brace yourself and lean away from the impact. Do not attempt to jump. The machine's rollover protection structure is designed to keep you safe as long as you stay in your seat. Make sure that the surface can support the full weight of the machine and the load, and that the structure where you are landing the load can support the weight safely. Position the machine as close to the landing point as possible with the load held low. Do not raise the load for placement if the forks are angled to one side. Set the parking brake. Slowly and carefully raise the load, but maintain a slight back tilt to cradle the load. As the load approaches the desired height, slow the lift speed to a minimum. Feather the controls by partially opening them. Never move the levers all the way to their stops unless you want fast and full function. Continue the lift until the load is slightly higher than the landing point. Once the load is higher than the landing point, carefully place the load directly over the landing point. Tilt the mast forward only after the load is over the landing point and ready to be placed. Gently lower the load until the forks are free and parallel to the landing surface so that they may be easily retracted from under the load. Lower the forks to traveling height before moving the machine. Special situations require extra caution, such as entering a building with a machine. Overhead clearance must be checked with the mast in the carry position. Also, allow time for your eyes to adjust to different lighting. Under no circumstances should the straight mast forklift be used to elevate people. Whenever the machine is to be parked, choose solid level ground. Always place the transmission in neutral. Apply the parking brake. Lower the forks. Turn the ignition switch off and remove the key. Never leave the operator's platform with the engine running. If you must park on a hill, park straight on to the slope. Set the parking brake and chuck the wheels. Transport, towing, and loading a forklift requires the skills of an experienced operator. Load on level ground and always use ramps of adequate strength that provide a low angle. Once the machine is loaded, lower the forks, set the brake, remove the key, and secure the machine properly using tie-downs. Refer to the operator's manual for proper towing procedures. This concludes our orientation to straight mast forklifts. Practice the procedures discussed in this video and study the operator's manual prior to attempting operation in actual worksite situations. Good operating practices ensure maximum productivity from you and your machine, and most importantly, prevent injuries.